has carried them, and he's having a phenomenal season.
Every single thing Brew just said about Lamar Judge is 100% true. I apologize. Aaron Jackson.
That doesn't
my bad.
work.
I'm sorry.
That does not.
Every single thing.
Because we in the regular season. We talk about the regular season. We'll get to the playoffs.
No, every single thing Brew just said about Lamar is true. He is in the midst of one of the greatest regular seasons ever. However, I must admit, maybe I was in a bit of a fog in our morning call.
Yeah.
Fresh off the plane. Is this the question we're starting the show with? Because I was certain, based on our show and every show precedent, we'd be starting with, did Baltimore get lucky? Is that only a thing we do for the Chiefs when at the very end of a game there is shockingly a missed call that goes in a team's favor, or maybe multiple missed calls, or maybe actually a 2-point conversion at the...
Okay. Let's talk about this, okay? This is this is the problem when you get so married to a take that you just can't let it go, right? This whole idea that Lamar Jackson just chokes, can't show up in the playoffs. Like, I actually thought I got fooled when he called him Lamar Judge or whatever he said first. I actually thought he just got tongue-tied or whatever, right? I honestly thought he just got tongue-tied. I was like, wait, what did he say? And then I realized what he did when he then said, Aaron Jackson or whatever. And I was like, oh, right. And how Lamar Jackson can have such an extraordinary game, and that's what we look at, right? I mean, let's not pretend that everybody is ripping the Kansas City Chiefs, because it's just not happening, okay? Like Nick is trying to create this narrative that the Chiefs win. I pointed out, and I take a lot of heat for it, but First Things First doesn't really. Colin Cowherd doesn't, right? Those are the main shows that Nick is referring to, especially The Herd, right? Obviously the show before this one. And even on NFL Live, Get Up, any of these other shows, they're not like, oh my God. They'll talk about it, just like even Colin talked about those missed penalties and whatnot. But it's not like the prevailing topic around the game, right? Because if you want to talk about teams getting lucky, like, again, we can talk about the Kansas City Chiefs getting lucky if that's the game we really want to play. And it's just like, I was prepared to talk about Lamar Jackson. Like, sometimes people call me out and they're like, oh, you bring up the Chiefs a lot, you bring up this, right? And it's like, because I'm going off of this type of stuff. We can't even just talk about Lamar Jackson's greatness in this game without now having to talk about him choking in the playoffs, which I've already talked about, and I don't think he chokes at all. So let's, I was saying that sarcastically. It's kind of crazy. Now, again, if we want to talk about the Baltimore Ravens as a whole, right, as a whole, because I think it is worth discussing, hey, that defense really dropped the ball that final drive. I mean, it was just penalty after penalty after penalty. I mean, like, it was kind of crazy. And yeah, they were fortunate to have those penalties not called. I don't care how much of a mega Lamar or Ravens fan you are, you have to admit it. But I say the same thing to Kansas City Chiefs fans. Admit that it was bad, terrible defense to just essentially, slam into Rashee Rice on that 4th and long play. That if you just played elementary school defense, you break that play up and you win the game, right? It was lucky that the Falcons did not get a pass interference call, right? And like, the problem is, fans never want to acknowledge that. No, we would have scored anyway. We would have done this. We would have done that. It's like, okay, sure. Whatever you say. Now, when I did talk about the missed penalties, I said this, and this is what someone yelled at me for. And surprise, surprise, this is, I was just ahead because I made that video hours ago before First Things First was even on, is that we know without a shadow of a doubt, if Patrick Mahomes gets hit in the face, do you really think that that's going to be a no call? Do we really think that? It was a no call for Joe Burrow. Do we really think it's not going to be a call against for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? I think we know that answer. There's no denying that. So yeah, the Baltimore Ravens they need to figure something out. They really do. They need to get buttoned up. And when you have that many penalties and whatnot, right? I look at that from a coaching issue more than anything. And I find that concerning. I genuinely do. But at the same time, I can also look at this game because, again, the question was, can Lamar keep saving this defense? It's like, Lamar is just playing out of his mind right now. Out of his mind. The things that he has to do to keep the Ravens in games and win is, it's extraordinary. It is absolutely positively extraordinary. And it's why I reject the idea that we can so heavily rely on just wins and losses being a quarterback stat, or that all wins are created equal. When you look at what Lamar is doing this season right now and the things that he's being asked to do from his team and compare it to, say, Patrick Mahomes, even Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, maybe Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow also has a terrible defense, that it's just extraordinary. Because again, Joe Burrow threw for over 400 yards. He had to throw over 53 pass attempts or something. So this game really highlighted two quarterbacks that have to be the absolute workhorse for their teams, right? That their team is just like, hey, please, can you please just win this game for us? Can you please just do it? At one point the Ravens were booing. The fans were booing the Ravens, which I in my previous video when when the game first ended, I asked Ravens fans, I'm like, how often does that happen? Because I don't recall ever really seeing that. I was actually shocked by it. I'm used to other fan bases doing it, right? I'm used to the Eagles doing it, the Cowboys doing it, the Giants, the Commanders, honestly, just a lot of NFC East teams. I'm used to seeing the Buffalo Bills do it. I've seen other teams around the league. The New York Jets do it. A lot of these East Coast teams, minus obviously the Cowboys. But then to say, I guess the Ravens, obviously East Coast as well. Probably a harder fan base for sure, being in Baltimore like that. But that surprised me, quite frankly, that it wasn't this idea of like, hey, yeah, we're getting off to a slow start. Things aren't going according to plan, but like we still got this, right? Just having that belief. To me, that signals that there's obvious frustration within the fan base. But at the same time, I don't get any of that frustration on YouTube. Like, that's the thing. The comment section is just unconditional, 1000% undying support for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. I don't sense any of the boos. So that's why I was kind of like, well, this is interesting to me, right? So I'm really curious what your guys' thoughts are on that aspect for sure. But yeah, this idea that we have to just keep pulling Lamar Jackson down and this or that. I guess I'll just have to always say this, anytime this gets brought up, but it's like, it was a failure of the Baltimore Ravens, not Lamar Jackson. Okay? Stop putting this all on Lamar Jackson. It's just getting so old to me. It really, really is. And again, if the Kansas City Chiefs are truly that special, truly that dynastic, then why should Lamar suffer the consequences for not being able to beat them in the playoffs, right? Like, that's then some grace should be given, and to then rub his nose in it just feels like foul play to me, honestly. It just doesn't really make sense. But yeah, a rematch between the Chiefs and the Ravens would be interesting. And this is where, if you're a Ravens fan, you got to feel like you're kind of going crazy right now, because this offense is like really cruising and humming. And even when they face some issues, they're able to obviously overcome them, right? Derrick Henry only 68 rushing yards and a touchdown, but yet they still were able to put up 35 points and ball out and really be special. And now it's just like, why can't our defense be the same as it was last year, or just a semblance? So the Chiefs defense is still rolling like it was last year. Why is our defense not doing that? And it's like, why did we not find a way to be able to continue that defensive dominance? And if they had a significantly better defense, like, how could the Ravens not be considered a runaway favorite to come out the AFC, let alone just Super Bowl in general. And so now it's like, great, Lamar Jackson has taken another really big step forward in quarterback play, and yet our defense has now taken like 2 steps back. I'm curious how Baltimore Ravens fans reconcile that, right? And how they, see this season to continue to unfold and see, the reasons why this is happening to begin with. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, and Nick, pretty much just making fun of Lamar? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I'm going to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.